Hey, what's going on? Welcome back. I'm Logan Sama. It's the Roundup. It's the Street Fighter League edition. Every week here on Reversal, we take a look around the world in the three regions that are fighting it out for dominance in Street Fighter League as we approach the playoffs. Every game, every battle, every point matters as we look at the playoff seedings. Thanks very much to everybody that's been leaving us feedback and getting involved. Make sure you drop us a comment below and let us know who your MVP player was this week. And of course, give us a sub if you haven't. We've got loads more video content right here on the YouTube channel. And of course, you can find us on socials and on Twitch when we're broadcasting live events as well. Let's get into the action. It's Street Fighter League Roundup time. Welcome back to Street Fighter League. This week in Street Fighter League Europe, it was week 8 and we had a huge match to kick off as the French teams once again went head to head. Luffy's team GO were the away side this time and came out first, with BMS following shortly thereafter with the unbeatable Mr. Crimson leading the charge. This week, GO gave Akainu a rest, and it was Junior Leo that opened it up with Luke this time round, the ever-reliable Valmaster, with Chun-Li in the second slot, and Luffy in the anchor role, but this time opting to open up with Rose. It was Killzyu that stepped up to take on Junior Leo with his Karin, and despite this spirited attempt at a comeback from Junior Leo, this big drop cost him the game and the set. Killzyu closed it out 2-0. Next up was Valmaster, and even though we are here in week 8, we got another debut. That's right, Link Zello making his first ever appearance here this season. He stepped up with his Nakali, and what a match it was. It went down to the wire, but Link Zello clutched it out, and you can see how much it meant to not only him, but his teammates. With BMS 20 points in the lead, it all came down to Luffy, and no surprise, he was facing the man with a 100% record, 5 from 5, it's Mr. Crimson. The Rose pick not working out in game number 1, and Crimson proving too powerful, it forced Luffy to switch back to Mika. And whilst the second game went the same way as the first, there were certainly signs of life from Luffy with this much more familiar character in Street Fighter V. That proved to be the case in the third game as Luffy finally pulled one back, the command grabs coming off for him. And going into game 4, it looked like Luffy had the momentum with him, but in a dominant final round, Crimson closed it out 3-1 to make it a 40-0 sweep for BMS and to take them back to the top of the table.
As we hit the halfway point of Street Fighter League Pro EU.
Game 2 saw 00 Nation go up against the struggling Wild Blast. In a familiar looking lineup, Rickerman's Barnet opened up with Manat, Veggie in the second game with Birdie, and Phenom, of course, in the anchor role game 3, playing for 20 with Luke. In a surprising choice, the Wild Blast team sent up MDZ Jimmy to face Rickerman's Barnet in a very uphill matchup. But even this moment of magic from Jimmy was not enough as Rickerman's Barnet closed out a decisive opening win. In game 2, Veggie, who got his first win last time the 00 Nation played, went up against Vega Patch, who is still waiting for his first win of the season in 5 attempts. It didn't look like it was going to be Veggie's day as he lost the first game due to these 2 miscalculations on ranges, but the momentum swung back his way in the second battle and he leveled it out 1-1. But going into the deciding battle, it was Vega Patch who locked down Veggie and was able to close it out with a dominant 2-round victory, taking the 10 points for Wild Blast. That meant we were going into a third and definitely final game between Phenom and Takamura, and it really highlights the form that Wild Blast are in as they have another player stepping up with a 0% win rate. The set opened up and it looked like it was going to be more bad fortune for Wild Blast as Takamura managed to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory here. But the second game turned round and it was a 2-round victory for Takamura, showing great confidence. He even forced the switch from Phenom to Karin to try a different approach to this matchup. but it didn't work out. This beautiful whiff punish setting up Takamura for the victory and a 2-1 lead. Phenom went back to Luke and the pressure proved too much. The throw bait opening up Takamura, and we're going to a final game. And despite this spirited attempt at a V-trigger comeback, Phenom proved too strong and managed to get the win 3-2 to close out a 30-10 victory for 00 Nation. Critical for them and their playoff chances, but Wild Blast lagging behind, possibly too far to catch up now. As we take a look at the leaderboard, you can see Wild Blast on 30 points, and they have played 6 games more than almost anyone else. Team Geo going to be disappointed not to pick up any points as they are hanging on to that playoff place by a thread. BMS and 00 Nation both at the top of the table, but of course 00 Nation have played one more match, Mouse and Reason Gaming with games in hand. Geo are back at it, this time against Reason Gaming. Are they going to get revenge for their loss earlier on in the season? And it is an incredible battle between BMS and Mouse for dominance at the top of the leaderboard. All eyes are going to be on Problem X and Mr. Crimson.
Do you feel that?
In the US, they took a week off for Thanksgiving, but they're back now with week 7. And this week, we can look forward to 2 blockbuster matches. We've got NASA X Bandits up against the struggling Red Rooster and CLG against UYU. NASA sitting very comfortable as we look at the leaderboard before this week's games and with games to spare. UYU in a precarious position, tied there with Red Rooster, but they've played a game less than everybody else. It's going to be very important that they put as many points on the board as possible. Moving into our first match, and you can see the lineup here for Red Rooster. The unstoppable Ajax Fidelity's Ed opens up. Smug steps in for the second game, locking in with Boxer. And Hot Dog is in the anchor role with M. Bison as Mono sits out this week. First game up, we saw Kaba, and he locked in with his G, to much surprise. But it didn't make much difference to Ajax Fidelity, who closed out a hugely impressive win, continuing his streak here at Street Fighter League. It was Mena that stepped up to face Smug in Game 2, and it was a dominant performance. 4 rounds straight from Mena, his knowledge of Boxer too much, and the Luke proving too strong. That meant we were going into a third deciding game, and Hot Dog was awaiting to see who he would face out of the 2 birds. Angry Bird stepped up and locked him with the Ken. To be expected, it was a tense first round, but Angry Bird managed to clutch it out in the final moments. He closed out Game 1 with a moment that blew all of our minds at home. What an incredible punish on the Psycho Crusher, utilizing the V-Trigger and EX bar, and his unstoppable offensive pressure closed out Game 2 to put him in a comfortable lead.
Kick and you're done.
Oh,
My bad.
God.
Okay.
A fatal error on this jump-in attack from Hot Dog meant Angry Bird closed out a convincing 3-0 victory, getting the 30-10 win for NASA and leaving Red Rooster scratching their heads. Our second game saw UYU desperate for a win going up against CLG. UYU opened up with a lineup of Oil King, who definitely did not lock in with Ed, Zen did not lock in with Boxer, and DCQ did not lock in with Bison. It would have been Rashid, Seth, and Urian. Chris ECH stepped up for the first match and got the business done with Luke time and time again. He has managed to secure these victories, so reliable for Team CLG. The second game was a lot more interesting as Filipino Man's Rose stepped up to face Cien, and both of these players are still looking for their first win this season. Cien cracking under the Rose pressure that proved to be too much, and Filipino Man took the first game. Cien had no answers to this pressure and he got opened up in the corner for a 2-0 victory to Filipino Man as CLG advanced to a 20-point lead. With DCQ locked in with Urine, it was Just a Kid that stepped up to get the job done in the third and final game. Just a Kid secured the first round with this awkward jump in, cashing out the full 3 bars. And he danced his way to closing out the first game, pulling CLG into the lead. DCQ called for a map change and he threw all caution to the wind to close out the second game and level it at 1-1 with this time-honoured classic. That Aegis proving deadly in the corner and DCQ pulled ahead into a 2-1 lead. But Just a Kid leveled it up and we were going to a fifth and final game. Once again, Just a Kid's confirms were on point and the CA took it to a final game, final round. But DCQ landed this Aegis combo into the throw and then closed it out. We're going to a tiebreaker. Team CLG opted to send forward Filipino Man, hoping for a repeat of his performance earlier on against Sen. But once again, that Aegis Reflector was doing the business and DCQ pulled into a lead at set point. The shimmy in the corner and DCQ spent all of the bar to close it out and secure UYU a 5-point win. That win lifts UYU off the bottom of the leaderboard, but Red Rooster still have that game in hand. NASA X Bandits are now starting to pull away at the top of the table, but CLG are still on their heels. Next week, we can look forward to Red Rooster going up against Panda, and Endemic are back up again, facing CLG in the return match. In Japan, it was week 12, and as we rapidly approach the playoff picture, the mid-table is congested. There's some really important games this week, so let's get straight into it. For day one, we kicked off with Detonation versus Gyogun. Detonation are desperate for points, but they were the away team, and they put forward a lineup which saw Nauman opening up with Luke. It was Itazan with G and John Takeuchi in the anchor role with Cody. The first game saw Margot step up to face Nauman's Luke. And in the mirror match, Margot showed little respect, interrupting his way to a 2-1 victory. It was Machabo and Dakali in the second game going up against Itazan's returning G. And Machabo's been reminding us around the world just how deadly he is with that character. A straight sweep 2-0 put Gyogun in the driving seat. It came down to the Cody mirror match in the anchor game as John Takeuchi faced Mizuha, and whilst Cody's corner pressure usually is too strong for everyone else to deal with, a character master spots all of the gaps and Takeuchi took this opportunity to go 1-0 ahead. Taka showed that he was a different beast and his corner pressure got the stun and a 2-0 lead. And whilst Mizuha put up a solid fight and kept each game close, it was too much to overcome. John Takeuchi closed out the set 3-0 and we are going to a tiebreaker. Much to everyone's delight, we got the run back and it's going to be one more. Mizuha fancied his chances. But once again, Takeuchi showed his class, the activation into plus frames getting the first round. And again, the corner pressure from the master of Cody himself got the win. It was only a 25-20 point victory for Detonation, so they are still right in the thick of trouble, and the next 2 weeks will prove vital for both of these teams. Game 2 saw Shinobizen Gaming and Team Ixa go head to head, and Team Ixa now officially out of the running. Shinobizen looking for these points for the seeding as the playoffs rapidly approach. Ixa were the away team and they put forward a lineup that saw Gunfight opening up with Alex, Crusher with Birdie, and then Inaba in the anchor position with M. Bison as Storm Kubo sits out this time round. In the first game, Johnny stepped up with G, and in an incredible performance, Gunfight proved too strong and got the 2-0 for a promising start for Ixa. Shinobizen showed the strength of their squad by sending Momochi up second, and he dealt with Crusher in emphatic fashion. Another 2-0 victory to level it up 10 aside as we go into the anchor match, which saw Fujimura come in with Luke going up against Inaba's very reliable Bison. Now, Inaba has proved to be one of the most consistent players on a struggling Ixa team, and he got the first game here making best use of V-Shift to negate Fujimura's pressure.
Shift again.
Inaba getting too predictable with the V-Trigger activation attempt. Fujimura levels it at 1 apiece. This nice throw bait V-Trigger combo set up the kill for Inaba to go 2-1 ahead in this final set. Fujimura showed that he was no slouch with the V-Shift as well. This critical art punish leveling it up at 2-2, and we're going to a final game. It seems like all the Lukes are reading from the same playbook, as this double EXDP in last game, last round, shows that Fujimura was not scared to go all in. And this incredible timeout situation saw Fujimura clutch it out, and Ixa once again left holding their heads, wondering where these points are. A 30-10 victory for Shinobizen Gaming sees them well set in the playoff seedings as we go into the last 2 weeks. Day 2 saw Nagoya Oja Body Star Mildom and Good 8 Squad open up the fixtures in this incredibly exciting match. It was the Good 8 Squad that were designated away, and they sent forward a lineup which saw Dogura's M Bison in first, Pugera with Balrog back in the lineup in second, and Gachikun's Rashid was in the anchor role. It was Kawano that was sitting out this time. Fudo stepped up first with Armika, and he made short work of Dogura. There was no escape, and the stun combo got the job done. One of SFL Japan's rising stars, Akira, has definitely made a name for himself with plays like this. But it wasn't enough to get the job done, as Pugera scrapped his way to a 2-1 victory. To nobody's surprise, Daigo stepped up in the anchor game and locked in with Guile, and he was going head to head with former Capcom Cup champion Gachikun. Looking for a whiff punish, this V-Trigger activation got him the frame advantage he needed anyway, and Daigo closes this round out with the critical art. You're going to see this critical art a lot. The slow boom catches Gachikun out, and the V-skill attempt does not clear, and Daigo takes the first game. Gachikun answered with this sick whiff punish into critical art to level it at 1 match apiece, but Daigo with the micro walk into jab boom CA takes it, and it's 2-1. Gachikun thought the V reversal punish was big brain, but it only set him into the trap.
Oh, no, the reversal to make him drop.
And Daigo was able to close it out for a 3-1 victory, 30 points to 10 for Nagoya Oja Body Star Mildom. And in an incredibly important game for both teams, our final match of Week 12 was Saishun Kansol against V6 Plus FAV Roto Gaming. Roto were the away team, and they put forward a very strong lineup. Bonchan in first with Luke, Sako second with the Manat, and Tokido in the anchor role with Luke. It was Nemo that stepped up first to face Bonchan, and the Gil pick did not work out for him. And a 2-0 victory puts them in an early lead. Higuchi versus Sako was a very exciting set of two masters, and Sako showed his situational awareness to level it up 1-1. But last game, last round, Higuchi showed the bravery and fearlessness with this flash kick right in Sako's face to take the win. Shuto stepped up for the deciding third game, and he locked in with Urien. A brave and confident play, because Tokido's definitely going to know this character. But it was a dominant performance from Shuto the whole way through. Counter hits everywhere into the stun, and Shuto closes out the first game.
He said, stop. It's over. Shuto.
The V-shift into target combo lands, and Shuto happily cashes out with the critical art for a 2-0 lead. At this point, it's 4 rounds straight, but Tokido does not change, and he sticks with the Luke. Unfortunately, that does not work out for him. And despite a valiant attempt at a comeback, that mirror was the big difference maker. Shuto closes it out 6 rounds straight. A complete wash of one of the greatest Street Fighter V players of all time. And that's a 30-10 victory for Saishun Kansol. That keeps Saishun Kansol in 4th place ahead of FAV. As you can see, Gyogen are just outside the playoff picture, but it is so compressed from 3rd till 6th. Good 8 Squad are clear and safe for a playoff position, and you'd have to say that Shinobizen are as well, but it's all to play for those last 3 spots as we go into our last 2 weeks. As you can see from this graph, the positioning has been pretty consistent over the last 3 weeks. Are things going to change in week 13 and 14? Is week 13 going to be unlucky for some? We'll find out next time round. That is it for this week. Some incredible action there. Don't forget, let us know who your MVP was in the comments below. Which player impressed you the most this week? We're rapidly approaching the playoffs. Every game, every battle, every point matters, and I cannot wait to see how that playoff picture forms. Of course, we'll be covering that right here on Reversal. Make sure you give us a sub if you haven't already. We've got the normal roundup every week here where we look at fighting game tournaments around the world. We've got great content with some of your favorite players. and content creators in the FGC. And of course, on the Twitch, we've got live events broadcasting, and of course, our own Renegade events coming back as well, alongside UOS, that French World Warrior event. We've got one more of those to go this season. There's loads of stuff. If you're not following Reversal, what are you doing? Give us a follow. Check us out on social media as well. It's Reversal_GG on Twitter, and we are now also on Instagram. We'll see you same time next week as Street Fighter League continues, but please make sure you watch the full videos of any of these events that you like. You can check it out in full at Capcom Fighters. That's on YouTube and on the Twitch archives as well. Thank you so much to Capcom, and we will see you again next time round.